Hey, Bible nerds, welcome back to Chapters and Chuckles by Kaye, where we dive into the Bible chapter by chapter. Today we're journeying through Deuteronomy Chapter 3, so buckle up because this episode has everything. A giant king, literally a giant. We have epic battles, land deals, a heartfelt prayer, and a dash of divine tough love. So think of it like a road trip story with Moses as our guide with pit stops for jokes and life lessons. So grab your coffee. My coffee today, it's like 8:30 in the morning, but I went to bed really late last night, so I really need the caffeine. Mm. All right, get coffee and let's set the stage for Deuteronomy chapter 3. So, to recap the scene, it's 40 years after the Exodus, and the Israelites are camped on the east side of Jordan River in Moab. Moses is midway through his farewell address, reminding the people of their journey. They've just defeated King Sihon of the Amorites in the last episode, if you remember, and now a new challenger approaches, King Og of Bashan. So King Og isn't just any old king. He is a big dude. In fact, this chapter drops a fun detail. Og's bed was made of iron and measured 9 cubits long, basically a king-size bed. Um, so hang on, 9 cubits long. So that's roughly 13 and a half feet long and 6 feet wide in modern terms. So it's kind of like a king size bed plus a twin bed at the bottom of it for his feet. So it's that long. No wonder why the Israelites might have felt a twinge of fear seeing him. But God had a message for Moses and the people right away, saying, "Do not fear him, for I have handed him over to you. You're going to do to Og just as you did to Sihon of Heshbon." So, in other words, giant or not, I've got this. Go get him. So the battle is on. Og and his armies clash with Israel, and it's no contest. Moses matter of factly recalls, so the Lord our God delivered Og into our hands. We struck him down until not a single survivor was left. So that's a Bible speak for total wipeout. Israel took all of Og's territory, which included 6045 cities, plus a bunch of unwalled villages, 66. So can you imagine? They basically went 60 for 60, conquering every town in Bashan. Now, before you picture skyscrapers in every corner, note that not all of those cities were huge metropolis. Some might have been, little towns of a few hundred people. Still, 60 out of 60 is pretty impressive. So those cities had high walls, gates, and bars, the works, but none of that could stop Israel when God was fighting for them. It's like the ultimate ancient victory tour. Welcome to Bashan, population Israelites now. So yeah. So about King Og's legendary oversized bed, the Bible says it was still kept on display in the Ammonite city of Rabbah, like a museum piece. Apparently, when you defeat a giant king, his bed becomes a tourist attraction. So who knew? Um, so there is no more historical record of that though. Like they probably did not preserve it, but it just says on the text that it was displayed, but it was never really preserved. So now we don't have that anymore. Unfortunately, it would have been fun to actually see, that huge bed. um, so either way, it screams, giant guy slept here pretty much. So to put that in perspective, 13 to 14 feet is longer than um a well, actually, that's longer than two king size mattresses end to end, huh? I'm not really very good with all the metric system and how big whatever is. So, anyways, I think that's about 2 king size mattresses. Anyways, so you could host a family reunion in that bed. So no wonder God told Israel not to be scared. Og may have been huge, but next to God, he was just a, big target, really. So with King Og defeated, Israel suddenly owned a lot of new real estate on the east side of the Jordan. Moses turns into a real estate agent and divides the territory among the tribes. The tribes of Reuben and Gad get lands in Gilead, southern part of the conquered area, and half of the tribe of Manasseh gets Bashan in the north. So yeah, half the tribe, the other half will settle west of the Jordan later. So it's a tale of two Manassehs. Fun fact, one portion of Bashan was called Havoth Jair, named after a guy named Jair from Manasseh who captured those villages. So basically, Jair slapped his name on a bunch of towns, the biblical version of having a street named after you, pretty much. Now, Moses had agreed back in the book of Numbers, chapter 23, to let Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh settle this east of Jordan land on one condition. They must help their fellow Israelites conquer the rest of Canaan and cross the Jordan. Moses reminds them of the deal. The Lord your God has given you this land to occupy. But all your warriors must cross over armed with the rest of the Israelites. So your wives, kids, and livestock can stay here in these towns, but you gotta fight until the Lord gives victory and rest to your brethren as well, just as he did for you. Only then can you come back and enjoy your property. Yeah. So with the land allocation squared away, Moses shifts his focus to his successor, Joshua. This is a tender moment, the aging leader mentoring the next generation. Moses says to Joshua something like, you've seen with your own eyes everything the Lord your God did to those 2 kings, and he will do the same to all the kingdoms on the other side of the Jordan where you're going. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God himself fights for you. So, what a pep talk. Moses basically tells Joshua, remember Sihon and Og? God took care of them, and he's going to handle the rest. Don't panic. So God has got your back. This isn't just a motivational fluff. Moses is reminding Joshua of real events that Joshua lived through. Joshua was likely in the thick of those battles after all. So there's a principle here. The key to courage is remembering God's faithfulness. Yeah. So it's like Moses, the coach, saying, watch the highlight reel, Joshua. See what God did. He doesn't change, so keep playing with that confidence. Now, the chapter takes a bittersweet turn. Moses shares a very personal memory, a prayer he prayed to God and the answer he received. He says, let me just go ahead and read this. At that time, I pleaded with the Lord, O Lord God, you have only begun to show your servant your greatness and mighty hand. For what God in heaven or on earth can do, the works and mighty deed you do. Please let me cross over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that lovely hill country and Lebanon. So, can you hear the longing in Moses' voice? This is the 120-year-old prophet pouring out his heart. For decades, he's led these people toward that promised land. It's been the goal of his life's work, and now they're right on the brink of it. He's basically saying, Lord, I know you are awesome. I've seen you do amazing things. Just one more favor. Let me go in with them. Let me see their promised land. Oh, it's just making me emotional. Because, he was never able to go in there. He was just able to get a glimpse of the promised land. Um, so what response does Moses get? In Moses' words, but the Lord was angry with me because of you, the Israelites, and would not listen to me. The Lord said, enough from you. Do not speak to me of this matter again. Go up to the top of Pisgah and look around to the west, north, south, and east, and behold it with your eyes, for you shall not cross this Jordan. But charge Joshua and encourage him, for he shall lead the people across and enable them to inherit the land you will see. So that had to hurt. Like, God basically shut down Moses' request firmly. Like, that's enough. Like, topic close. Moses is told he can see the land from the mountaintop vantage point, but he cannot enter it. Instead, his job is to empower Joshua to finish the mission. This makes me like very teary-eyed every single time. Okay, so why was God so seemingly harsh here? Moses does not rehash it in detail in this chapter, but we know from earlier scriptures that it stemmed from an incident where Moses disobeyed God in front of the people. So back in the book of Numbers, chapter 20, at Meribah, Moses lost his temper and struck a rock when God said to speak to it. That lapse misrepresented God's holiness, and God told Moses that he would not lead the people into the land because of it. Imagine. As much as God loved Moses, he held him accountable as a leader. So here in this chapter, when Moses begs for a reversal of that decision, God in effect says, my decision stands. Moses, the great, intercessor, hears a firm no. It's a sobering moment. Imagine being Moses. Like, you've come so far, everything, but you won't step foot in the very land you've been heading toward. So many of us might have sulked and grown bitter, but Moses shows incredible humility and grace here. He accepts God's answer. He doesn't rant or rebel. Instead, he does what God asks. He turns his attention to, encouraging Joshua. Moses will climb Mount Pisgah to get the panoramic preview of Canaan, and then he'll pass the baton fully to Joshua. So this chapter ends on that poignant, very poignant note. Moses says, so we remain in the valley opposite Beth Peor. That's where the Israelites stayed as these things transpired. Moses preparing for the end of his journey, and the people preparing for a new chapter under Joshua's leadership. And that, dear listeners, is the narrative of the book of Deuteronomy Chapter 3. Giants defeated, lands acquired, and a new leader anointed, and a faithful servant coming to terms with God's will. It's both triumphant and bittersweet. Very bittersweet. It's actually so sad. So sad. But, like, after Moses died, he was able to, go home to God. So, but still, that's still like, it hurts me. Anyways, yeah, so a mix of victory dances and farewell speeches. Let's talk about a chapter packed with drama. Makes me cry every single time. Anyways, so Deuteronomy 3 isn't just a tale of ancient warfare. It's about a faith over fear, community over ego, and trust over regret. We learn that giants can be conquered even, when we step out in faith. That good leaders prepare others to succeed, and that sometimes even the heroes have to hear no, and that's okay. Moses handled disappointment with dignity and kept serving God's plan, which inspires us to do the same. If you think about it, God says no to us all the time. Every time, I'm pretty sure, like, not all are answered. Not all our prayers are answered. not all your prayers are answered. And I feel like that's God just saying no, whenever it doesn't happen. Um, so yeah, it hurts when you really want something and then God says no. But put yourself in Moses' shoes. Like if you've been listening so far to all my episodes, you know what Moses went through. It's it's a lot, and for God to just say no, he's not gonna go to the finish line after everything. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. So if you're in a season of facing big challenges, or maybe passing a torch to someone else, or even facing the consequences of a past mistake, there's something in Moses' story for you and me. All right. So fun fact corner. I have quite a few. So the last of giants. Og is called the last of the Rephaim, um, which were a legendary race of giants. These were the same giant folks that struck fear into the Israelites back in the book of Numbers. So by defeating Og, Israel symbolically showed that the era of giants dominating the land was over. The big guys had literally become extinct in that region. Score one for the underdogs. Um, the Mount Pisgah, the viewpoint. So Moses was told to climb Mount Pisgah to view the promised land. So Mount Pisgah is part of the Mount Nebo range in modern day Jordan. And from its summit, you get a breathtaking panorama of Israel slash Palestine. On a clear day, you can see the Dead Sea, the Jordan River Valley, and even the hills of Judah and Samaria. So tourists still visit Mount Nebo today to experience that view. It's pretty touching to stand where Moses likely stood, gazing at the land he longed for. I don't think I can ever visit that place because it would make me just like, because just reading about his story every single time, like, it breaks my heart. So imagine being actually there where he was, seeing what he saw. I'm gonna break down. I will break down. But if you ever get to travel there, it's a moment where history and faith really hit home. So what happens next in the Deuteronomy saga? After reminiscing about these victories, Moses is about to switch gear. Coming up in chapter 4, Moses turns into Moses the preacher. He's going to urge the Israelites to remember everything they've learned. So, keep the commandments and never ever stray into idolatry. Expect some, passionate pleas and memorable one-liner. So it's like the ultimate don't forget what's important speech before they enter the promised land. Will the people listen? Will Moses drive the point home? So stay tuned for our next episode on Deuteronomy, episode 4, chapter 4, to find out. Thank you for listening to Chapters and Chuckles by Kaye. If you've enjoyed this episode, please follow or subscribe. You can catch new episodes on YouTube or Spotify podcast. Until then, stay curious.